You like natural human voices. You like people reading things to you because you like podcasts. You're listening to this. This is a podcast. A podcast is when someone records their natural human voice and says things to you, and you take it in through your ear holes. And from those ear holes, you extract information, and it makes you a better person. Wouldn't you like to do that for other articles, like ones that you would have to read with your eyeballs? Of course you would. And someone's like, we can make an app for that. And an app is almost a slang term for application. So there's an application for listening to things that have been written, and you can hear them in a natural human voice. Everyone loves natural human voices, like my natural human voice right now. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. Just like my natural human voice right now. So basically, there's an article, you can click on the article, and a natural human voice will read it to you in a natural human way. And that's great, because you wouldn't want an unnatural non-human voice. And I assume a non-human voice would be one like a cat meowing, and you don't understand what they're saying. And you don't want it to be an unnatural voice. You want it to be natural. So this is the best of all worlds come together in one. You can browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling. Start listening. As someone who listens to podcasts, clearly because you're listening to one right now, I've actually already explained that concept. This is good for you because it means you're on the train, you're driving the car, and you can't read, you're busy, or the train's crowded and you don't want to hold a book up because it takes extra space and it's very crowded. Newsly will read those articles to you. So you're getting the articles you want to read read to you in a natural human voice. There's also podcasts, explore trending podcasts from over 40 countries, like my podcast, Ninja News Japan. It's there in the trending bit because I did this ad, and that's the trade we did. So if you think I'm making money off this, you're incorrect. They just want my natural human voice to read you this natural human advertisement for their natural human application. Download Newsly for free at www.newsly.me or from the link in the description and use promo code N1NJA2021. That's all capital letters in big numbers. There's no small numbers anyways. It's spelled like Cyber Ninja style. So N1NJA is ninja, like Ninja News Japan. And 2021, that's the year it is right now. So that'll help you remember it. I mean, that promo code will help you get 1 month free premium subscription to Newsly, the app I have just talked about in my natural human voice. So if you like that, natural human voices and all, I mean, why wouldn't you? It's free, and you can get that 1 month a premium to feel special for 1 month. My advertising empire is on the rise. Absolutely. I mean, you can tell. It's just, it's only up from here. As in, I could not do any worse. We got to talk about politics. And you're like, hey, I came here for dirty news. I don't think there's any dirty news this week. I did read a story about a man who, there was a girl walking along. She was looking at her cell phone. He just ran up, reached up under her skirt, grabbed her underwear and yanked them off and ran away. He got arrested. That is the most interesting news for the dirty side so far. And it was not, again, that's the whole story. So it's not much actually worth it. I have no commentary on it. Don't do that. Kishida is now the prime minister. And from there, they're going to do another election. So October 31st. The CDP is the main opposition to the LDP, which is the ruling party at the moment. Last week I talked about some of Kishida's policies. He wants to reduce income disparity. And this actually goes back to something I said, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I was saying the problem that opposition parties have with leader in power is the problem is if they actually have the same policies, people are going to be like, well, why would I vote for you when I could already vote for the guy who's already there? So it's harder for them to criticize. The CDP is the main opposition. Their platform at the moment is to tax the rich. So they want to lower middle and lower house incomes. I'm saying that sentence wrong. They want to tax lower middle and lower income households at a lower rate. I think there's just too many lowers in that sentence. They want to lower the consumption tax from 10 to 5%. So right now it's 10% consumption tax. They want to reduce that to 5%. If you make less than $10 million yen a year, basically you would pay no taxes. This is tough. I'm okay with people who make under 10 million yen not paying taxes. I don't think that's realistic because that's the average household income is like 4 to 5 million yen. So you're taking away all the average people will pay no taxes, only rich people. I'm not like pro rich people, but that actually seems like unfair unless we are suffering from Japan, rich people not paying taxes at all, which is what happens in a lot of countries because they find like loopholes and stuff. The CDP claims that the income gap is actually because of Abenomics, which has been going on for a bunch of years now. And they want to give 120,000 yen to any low-income house because of coronavirus. So basically another stimulus. They want to raise the capital gains tax to 25% and then 30%. So they actually have plans in place to lower the income gap. Basically higher taxation on the rich and just more freedom for lower places, for lower income families and stimulus. The Japanese Communist Party, which it's actually interesting that Japan still has a Japanese Communist Party. I'm wondering how communist they are. Because I bet they're not actually communist, but they've made a lot of similar statements. They want to make the minimum wage, right now it's 930 yen, and they want to increase that to 1,500 yen an hour. Both of them are anti-nuclear power. The money stuff isn't so far off what Kishida's been saying. He hasn't come out with a clear plan yet, but again, it makes it hard for them to criticize his plan when he says, they're basically going to say he's got the right idea, but he's not doing enough. But this being politics, they want to sound really angry when they say it. Kishida is still focused on the coronavirus, which is what he should still be focused on. There have been a couple news stories this week where they've talked about how it's weird that Japan's cases have dropped so suddenly. So 66+% have been vaccinated in Japan, full vaccination. And they're like, last week in Tokyo, there were 40 cases, which is like the lowest. And I think there's actually been another number lower than that, but I'm going off memory now. Scientists and the doctors and stuff responsible for all this coronavirus stuff can't explain the drop. So like we've hit the same, slightly surpassed the vaccination rate of other countries. There's one assumption that basically all the people who haven't been vaccinated probably already got corona. So we've hit this kind of weird herd immunity. So the people who haven't got it have been vaccinated, so they're not going to get it, or if they get it, it's not going to be as bad. If you haven't been vaccinated or are one of those people who are sort of anti-vax, there's actually a good chance you already got it, which is interesting. But the numbers have just dropped significantly, and no one can really explain why. Kishida says he's not optimistic about coronavirus, which I think is actually a pretty sensible view for a leader to take. He's like, we got to plan for the worst and hope for the best. Numbers are on the decline, but we should not be optimistic, which is actually, it's not a statement you want to hear, but it is the truth. I actually really agree with that. And he is further backing the development of a Japanese oral vaccine. So instead of getting the needle, you get drops, which I'm fine with. I'm actually interested. So let's say the numbers are on decline and people are not getting sick. And maybe let's just even go ahead and say this pandemic is over. I know it's not, but let's just pretend it is. The hypothetical that this pandemic is coming to an end. What they actually should do is make a plan now for the next pandemic. 5 or 6 years ago, there was a TED Talk, and I think it was actually Bill Gates, and he was talking about like countries are open to disease. Disease can have great impact on them, and we don't have any infrastructure in place to stop them. Everything we've learned now should be made into an implementation plan for the next pandemic, because there will be one but we have to be more ready for it this time. So speaking about vaccine and coronavirus and stuff, there are restaurants and they're like, numbers are going down. We should be able to open this up. The state of emergency has been lifted. We want to start making our money again. So let's let people go back to restaurants. So what they've decided is let's try to do this. They're going to do a trial in Kyoto. And if you can show a proof of vaccination for everyone in your party, larger parties can go out to restaurants. And then those parties can stay later. They're going to do it in Kyoto. Then they're going to try it in Hokkaido and Fukuoka. And I find this a really interesting thing because all the vaccinated people then get to go out together and have a good time. And all the unvaccinated people are like, I'm sorry, you can't come in. You're a dangerous entity here. It's just imagining all these vaccinated people like in a bar having a good time and drinking, and then like the anti-vax guy standing outside looking in the window, like one tear rolling down his face. But you know what? You deserve it. Kishida, because it relates to economics and stuff I was talking about at the beginning. Kishida is not going to do Abenomics. He's not going to continue the Abenomics that have been continued so far. He wants to make a new form of capitalism. And he's going to call it a virtuous cycle of economic growth and wealth distribution and the development of a new society after COVID. Which is a lot. That's like a single sentence. He hasn't explained the details, which is, of course, the more interesting part. And again, I think this is going to just be like tax the rich kind of stuff. I think this would be interesting because if they do it, it would be a good case study as in lowering the upper limit of funds rich people have in the exploitation of the poor. Is it successful? This is completely unrelated. I saw a story yesterday. It was about a guy who he runs a company and he made the minimum wage in his company. I think it was $70,000 a year. So if you were an employee in his company, he took a pay, the president, he took a pay cut to make sure everyone in his company gets $70,000 a year. And everyone's like, oh, this is going to fail. All the economists and stuff, this is going to fail. This isn't going to work. This is socialism at work. This is horrible. It's never going to be successful. And it's been an incredibly successful company with massive staff retention and loyalty because it takes care of it. My fucking dog. It's a mailman or something. The dog it happens every day and the dog just cannot chill out about it. It also makes it seem like the dog does not learn. Now I've completely lost the train of thought. Thanks, Dave. He's downstairs today. He wanted to look out the window. There are, again, I said 66 plus, let's just say 70. We're going to round up the number. I know it's not exactly 70 yet. 70% of the people in Japan have vaccinated. They're still trying to get the remaining people to get vaccinations. It's actually mostly young people because they were not on the list at the beginning. Companies and basically the government and stuff, they're all trying to get people to do it. So the government is offering coupons and goods. So if you get a vaccine, you can get coupons. Tokyo, the city of Tokyo, if you register via line, you can get coupons. In Hiroshima, if you get vaccinated, you get entered into a lottery for a Mazda 3 Fastback. Which actually, what I need to do right now is check what that is. Mazda 3 Fastback. Because what I care about is what I actually want the car. I've seen that there's a guy when I walk to work. He has one of these. It's a little car. I'm assuming that's pretty sexy. I would be happy winning that car. I would want the full. Is it the Fastback? Is the big one or the full one or the small one? Either way, honestly, I would be more than happy to take a little Mazda Fastback, man. That's a sexy little machine. All right. So I was going to crap on the car, if I'm being really honest, but no, I've seen a couple of those in the wild, and they are nice looking little cars. They're very sleek. They don't stand out, but actually for some people like myself, that's actually a trait that you look for. In Gunma, if you are between 20 and 40, so I'm too old now, fuck those guys, you can win a Subaru, and they will give 50,000 yen to 350 people. Not give, it's a lottery. So you can enter this lottery, you could get a car or 50,000 yen for X amount of people. In Tochigi, between 18 and 39, so basically 40, you can win a mountain bike or beef. So it actually, in a weird way, shows how much money these prefectures have, because the big rich places are offering a car. The poorer prefectures are offering mountain bikes. I would still take a mountain bike. I'm not going to actually crap on that. But I think it's nice that at least they're like, at least take the chance and get vaccinated and you might win something. I think that's cool. Since we're talking about like schemes and stuff, tour companies, the main story is about Peach. They're trying to get people to fly and travel again. And Peach is offering a 20,000 yen all-you-can-fly pass for November. So basically, you pay 20,000 yen, you could fly every single day to a different place that Peach goes to. And they're domestic primarily, but they go to like Korea and China, I think. Oh, there's two passes. There's the light pass, which is 19,800 yen, and the standard pass it means you can bring like 1 or 2 bags for 29,800 yen. And they will only sell 30, and then it will go up by 10,000 yen. So it's going to be like 20,800 and 39,800. And then they will be 150 available in total. So I actually bet they're already gone now. But again, this is just trying to get people to be comfortable flying again. And if the cases have gone down and I want to see a 0 day. I want to see a Tokyo 0 day before I would be, comfortable traveling. And then I want a couple of weeks at least of a Tokyo 0 before I think I can go around without my mask on. I've started in my little town that I live in, started seeing a lot of old people who are walking around without a mask. And I think they got the vaccination and think, well, I'm vaccinated, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. But you actually can still get it. Again, it might not be as bad, but if you're old and not in great shape, and obviously a risk taker, like someone who thinks it's okay to not wear a mask, that's problematic because you're still at risk. They also have another option, Peach Airlines, and it's called a gacha. So the gacha machine is where you put, your money in and you turn the thing and a little ball comes out. Usually you get a little toy. You can do that and get a random trip. So you don't know where you're going to end up or what the ticket's going to be, but you do get it for a super low price. I actually never checked the price. I should have done that. I'm sorry. You can get a really low price and travel somewhere randomly in Japan, which is kind of cool. Toyota has been in the news. Now, I was very disappointed in Toyota, which is a weird thing to be disappointed in. Toyota, basically, they created the Prius, which was the first mass-produced electric car that people accepted. I weirdly remember Leonardo DiCaprio had one, and that kind of made it popular. Turns out that Toyota, up until very recently, was actually in America lobbying to stop the development of EVs. Like electric vehicles. They were like, we want to slow down on this. We like the gas cars. We like the gas power. And then that is clearly falling through because they've now made a big right turn and they're talking about sustainability and all this stuff. Like, this is a corporation. They don't care. Companies don't care about the environment. Companies don't care about the future. They care about making money. And they've just realized the winds have changed. Everything's going to have to be EV in the future. They want to equip all future cars with super efficient solar panels. So you would charge at home at night, but then as your car is out, it would still be charging if it was sunny. They want to reduce the cost in solar batteries and solar power generation. And I actually think this is really cool because this could have a ripple effect out into other industries. I could get some solar panels on my house that are better. That would actually charge my car. They can do the internal battery in your house and charge a lot of stuff in your house. Solar power. They are aiming to be zero carbon by 2050. They want 8 million. They have an 8 million car target by 2030, mixed solar power and hydrogen. Japan's still very big on hydrogen. I don't know how, again, it seems like the biggest problem is actually collecting it and making sure it's stable, and then getting hydrogen gas stations out. On a bigger scope, Japan wants to hit a 46% carbon goal by 2030. The problem is that everyone's realized that their carbon reduction goal actually stems from them turning on 30 nuclear reactors that have actually been shut down since Fukushima. A lot of people in Japan are anti-nuclear power, which, again, I understand. I personally, my belief is that if they put in the money to upgrade those nuclear power plants, that it would be perfectly acceptable. If they took the old ones and made them modern, I wouldn't have a problem with it. And then there's some of the politicians are saying these small nuclear reactors. So instead of having a gigantic one that powers like full cities, you have like small ones within communities. I don't know enough about that, but again, I am not anti-nuclear power. I'm anti not maintaining your shit. How about that? Because if you don't maintain it, that's when accidents happen. You get like this nuclear power plant has been running for 50 years and has had 0 upgrades and 0 safety checks. And then there's an earthquake and a tsunami and things go wrong. But I think if they actually did it, like made it so that you had to upkeep everything, I think it'd actually be perfectly safe. I have a lot of faith in science. That's why I was really pro-vaccine, because I believe scientists are doing the right thing for the right reasons. I think engineers are similar. So thank you, scientists and engineers. It was a lot of political news and, environmental stuff. And so I got one story that's different. So we can finish off with this. And this actually matches again. My coworker had a complaint that Kimetsu no Yaiba, his kids were watching it, the Demon Slayer cartoon. He said it was too sexual. And I read this article and it struck me. I was like, this goes back to the intense sexualization that is acceptable in Japan, that is not acceptable in the West, and the intense violence that is acceptable in the West, that is not acceptable in Japan. So a lot of video games that I play, if you buy a Japanese version, it's actually censored. I don't notice because I only get the censored version, so I don't really care, but it is interesting. There have been some complaints. So the new season, the movie came out, and it was the biggest movie in Japan, and then a new season came out. I think it's just started, and there were some complaints that there are a lot of mature themes in Demon Slayer, and viewers have complained that it's on primetime TV. So this sort of at first matches up with my friend's complaint. The Japan Broadcast Ethics and Program Improvement Organization, the BPO, take these complaints, and they make recommendations and stuff. Now, my friend's complaint that it was like weird sexualization and the girl's tied up and she's got that thing in her mouth. The Japanese complains that there's too many scenes of bloodshed and brutality and people being eaten and having arms torn off. So all the sex stuff that bugs him, Japanese people are fine with. All the violent stuff that he didn't mention, Japanese people are not okay with. And this is a very interesting thing because this is actually dealing with cultural psychology. So if you grow up in Japan, everything is weirdly sexualized, so it actually would have to be like really extreme for you to maybe even notice. If you grow up in the West, violence is so common in your media that it would have to be incredibly extreme for you to notice or care. The BPO had an interesting statement though, and it was the popularity of the series content suggests it has been deemed acceptable by society. So basically they're saying so many people have watched this and it's so popular that society has accepted it, therefore your complaint is invalid. Viewer discretion is understood and accepted. And this is the part I actually like. If you think it's too violent, you shouldn't watch it. If you think it's too sexual, you shouldn't watch it. And as a parent, you should be doing the same for your kids. I wasn't a big fan of it. I actually thought it was too violent. I didn't notice the sex stuff as much. Again, I hadn't watched it. But I knew there were sword fights and stuff, and then there was like big gushers of blood, geysers of blood, gushing geysers of blood, and I didn't like that part. And my daughter actually, I watched a whole bunch of stuff, and she said it was too scary. And then this thing with like monsters and basically zombies in it wasn't too scary, and I think she just wanted to watch it because it was popular, so the other kids could talk about it. So I was gonna say don't watch this, but then my wife was watching with the kids, and it was really hard for me to overrule my wife. So they all ended up watching it, and they don't seem to have been mentally damaged yet, but I'm waiting. But I do think this is a very sensible statement by the BPO. They're like, everyone in the country's watching this. Everyone in the country's fine. There's a minority that's complaining, and that minority should understand that you don't have to watch it. Viewer discretion is mentioned at the beginning of each episode. They're saying there's like themes of violence. I don't think they mention the sex stuff. And again, there's no overt sex stuff It's all implied. And then there is the weird relationship. The main character is in the girl, their brother and sister. And then he's got this weird love for her. And again, a lot of Western, I was listening to a different podcast where they were talking about this. And they actually said that was sexual. And I don't think Japanese people see it as sexual at all. He loves his sister. And he says, oh, she's super cute and she's beautiful and she's kind and lovely and all this stuff. And weirdly, I think Japanese people aren't interpreting that as sexual. Whereas Western guys on this other podcast absolutely were. They were like, this is clearly he wants to bang his sister. And I was like, I actually don't think it's written that way. I'm not saying your interpretation's incorrect, because you can never say that. But I think your interpretation's skewed culturally by the way you think. That a brother loving his sister and saying she's cute and stuff is normal in Japan. It's not creepy and sexual. But the other side of that is Japan comes out with a lot of creepy sexual stuff from normalized situations. So, basically the message from the BPO to you is, if you don't like Demon Slayer, don't watch it.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. You can also watch on YouTube/VelociPodcaster, streaming on twitch.tv/ChunkMcBeefChest. You can find Ninja News Japan on Facebook. Send questions or comments to speakpipe.com/VelociPodcast. Link in the description. Check out all the podcasts in the VelociPodcast family. See McB, Ninja News Japan, and Daily Affirmations Weekly. The geysers of blood gushing greatly improved the experience of the slaying of demons who had blood to gush geyserly.